over the Celtics on Tuesday night. Embiid made 20 of 25 from the floor, 12 of 13 free throws en route to his 9th game of the season with at least 40 points and 10 rebounds, joining Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt Chamberlain as the only NBA centers with 3 50-point games in a season. Here's his coach, Doc Rivers, with the ultimate compliment.
The MVP race is over. I'm really, like tonight, we couldn't make shots. We had guys making shots, with open shots. The man just scored half our points in the NBA game. And I'm biased, but the MVP race is over.
All right, and it looks like Vegas is agreeing with Coach Rivers, as according to Caesar Sportsbook, Embiid's performance improved him from the odds-on favorite to the overwhelming favorite. You can see it right there, to win the MVP. Tim Legler joining the combo. Legs, good morning. Just buckle up for what you're joining right now. The energy's a little intense.
Morning.
Okay? We've got LA energy happening there, coming from the West Coast. Legs, I'll get to you in just a second.
Stop being jealous.
SA,
Okay.
I want to start with you. Do you agree with Doc Rivers that Embiid ended the MVP race last night?
Yes, for me, he has. I voted for him last year. I'm voting for him this year. I have a vote. Embiid is getting my vote. I think he's been absolutely spectacular this season. Unlike years past, he's going to end up playing as many games as Jokic, because Jokic has missed a few himself. He's had to carry the Philadelphia 76ers on his back throughout most of the season. Maxey has been down due to injury. Harden has been up and down when he has played, even though I think he's having a pretty good season. But Embiid, to me, is absolutely spectacular. And I think that, and also dominant. Inside, outside. When we look at Joel Embiid right now, it's the Sixers' playoff futility, meaning their inability to get to the conference finals or the NBA finals. That is the only reason that we haven't talked more about Joel Embiid being one of the greatest big men in the history of basketball. Look at his talent. Look at his numbers. We're talking Shaq. We're talking Wilt. We're talking Bill Russell. We're talking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Doggy, you'd be happy I mentioned his name. We're talking George Mikan, for crying out loud. Throw Bill Walton in the mix. The list goes on and on. I'll go Bob Lanier, Artis Gilmore, and all of these brothers. It don't matter. Joel Embiid is one of the greatest big men we have ever seen in the history of basketball. And when you look at the numbers he's putting up, he's averaging 33 a game. Okay, his true shooting percentage is like at 65%, even though Jokic's number in that category is better than that, along with his win share. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that they have identical records. The Eastern Conference is clearly tougher this year than the Wild Wild West that is the Western Conference, because it's been up and down all year. Memphis has had its issues because of Ja Morant. Dallas has fallen off the map. We look at Denver. They've tailed off over the last several weeks. I'm looking at Phoenix. They just got KD. You see the Lakers and the Clippers. That's been up and down all year long. The Wild Wild West has been wild. We understand it. It doesn't measure up to the Eastern Conference this year with Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee. And look at what Embiid has done no matter who he has gone against. That, combined with the way Denver has tailed off, and to me, I'm going to say this, Tim Legler and Doggy, I think that the noise that was being made about Jokic potentially as an MVP, winning his 3rd straight and stuff like that, I think it's been a turnoff to him. I think he stopped prioritizing going for the MVP award. I think he was affected by, it's just my opinion, I think he was affected by all the noise. I think his priority is the postseason. I don't think he's prioritized trying to win this over the last several weeks. Of course, he's been injured. At the end of the day, to me, it is clear. It's close. Giannis is in the mix, of course. Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid. But Embiid gets my vote. I agree with Doc Rivers. He will have my vote for league MVP. He is that dude.
Well, I'll go quick to give Timmy a chance here. What Stevie said, first off, you forgot Moses Malone and Olajuwon. I mean, when you're going to talk center, Steve,
right.
I mean,
Right.
Can you mention him, please? Can you mention Moses Malone and Olajuwon?
I just said you're right. I mean,
Right,
damn, I just threw some other names. Of course, it's Malone.
Well,
and
it took you a while. I shouldn't even have to remind you to say those two.
I got a lot on my mind.
Olajuwon,
I got a lot on my
remind
mind.
you?
I got a lot on my mind.
That's number
I've
one.
been traveling.
No, not traveling on Delta in the back of the plane.
It was
but you've been
Delta. I did travel on Delta yesterday.
Oh, you did? Oh, we'll get to that later. All right, that's number one. Number two, what? somehow Jokic has had a year where this is over. Now, listen, he's probably going to win the MVP and Embiid. I don't disagree. But the idea that somehow Jokic now doesn't belong in the discussion is a bunch of freaking nonsense. I mean, he's got a triple-double. He's got 10 assists a ball game. He averages as many rebounds as Embiid does, and he scores 25 a game, and I love the way he plays. And I don't buy the idea that somehow, some way, this Eastern Conference is heads and tails better than the Western Conference. The Heat stink, Atlanta stinks, the Bulls stink, Washington stinks, the Knicks decent, the Nets stink. While in the West, the bottom half, Clippers they got a lousy record. Anybody want to sit there and tell me the Clippers are not a good team with George and Kawhi? Lakers got a lousy record. They got LeBron and they got Anthony Davis. Oklahoma City is better than Miami. Better team. I love Oklahoma City. I mean, there's better teams. And then you got freaking New Orleans. It's got much better players in the West.
New Orleans.
Top 10 players in the West in the NBA. You got Jason, you got Tatum, you got Giannis, and you got Embiid. The other 7 are in the West. Durant, Jokic, LeBron, Curry, Anthony Davis, Kawhi. The other best players in the conference are in the West. They're not in the East. The East has got 3 of the top 10 players. Everybody else is up in the Western Conference. Not to mention people like Booker and Lillard and folks like that. So from that standpoint, the idea that Jokic doesn't deserve to be in the discussion, and I understand Doc Rivers is trying to pump up his guy. The guy won it 2 years in a row, Jokic. And Embiid will win. Steve's right. Steve's right. But let's not downplay the greatness of Jokic. I mean, he's had a heck. Did Embiid play?
Stop it. Stop it.
Did he play?
You're not going to do that. He was hurt.
Why not?
He was hurt.
When
he went against them earlier, he dropped 47 and 18. I mean,
stop. Did he play in
you're
Denver?
ridiculous. Stop it. Go ahead,
You're
Tim.
nuts.
Go ahead.
You're nuts.
You're nuts.
You're nuts.
Oh, please.
How did they give you
Go ahead,
vote?
Tim.
Oh,
Please. Well, how do I give me a vote? Me?
All right. Well, listen. I'm getting a little bit concerned about Stephen A's blood pressure right there, so I'm going to bring it back down, Stephen A. I'm going to help you out here because I'm going to agree with you on this one. And look, for me, I started to come around to the conclusion really over the last couple of weeks that it's Joel Embiid, and it was because the more I watched him on a nightly basis, the more I realized he does things to impact the game and affect the game defensively that Jokic couldn't dream of. And I love Jokic as a player, and I don't think by saying it's definitive that it's over, that Embiid's the MVP, that's not denigrating Jokic. That's really just lauding the greatness of Embiid in the season that he's had. So when you start talking about MVP, you're really putting together a balance sheet, right? You start writing things down. Just take a look at this guy's season. Right now, he's the best raw scorer in the league. There is absolutely no answer for what Joel Embiid does. And so to have a signature night like he had last night, national TV game, an important game. I know Boston was shorthanded. They didn't have Jaylen Brown or Robert Williams, and that does matter. But all eyes were on this game to come out and basically throw a perfect game if you're a pitcher. That's what he did. I know guys have put up bigger numbers this year. That was the most dominant offensive performance I've seen because it was almost perfect in what he did and the way he attacked, where he beat them from, power, finesse, from deep, off the dribble, in the post, at the foul line, on the offensive glass. Every which way you can dominate a team, he did it. So for me, it was that pound the gavel moment. It's over. I'm the MVP. I do think there's something to be said for the visual that he gave us last night in a race that is this tight, particularly when Jokic has missed some games here lately, came back last night, didn't play well. They lose to Houston. That's not great visually here as these two guys are trying to run through the wire, because I do think it is neck and neck. The first place votes are going to be practically split. It's going to come down to which guy is going to get more second place votes, because Giannis is going to have something to say with that. And I think ultimately it's going to fall for Embiid. And last night for me was that moment that he needed to have with all eyes upon that game against what really is their main rival in the Eastern Conference. So, yes, it's Embiid now, and I think he's got it in his hands, and he's going to hold on to it and finish this thing off.
I would also say this. Embiid goes against Jokic early this season. He drops 47 and 18. Embiid shows up last night against Boston, a team that had beaten the 76ers in all 3 meetings they faced this year, and he did what he did. Now, I'm turned off by the fact that the Sixers nearly blew the damn game with one error after another, for crying out loud, and I was lamenting the fact that it was that close, particularly considering that Jaylen Brown did not play last night. Boston clearly has their number. They clearly know and are very confident that they could beat the 76ers. We all believe that Boston and Milwaukee are a touch above Philadelphia, even though Philadelphia could beat either one of them. But I believe Boston is one of those teams that seems to have Philadelphia's number. Where that makes you change your thinking to some degree is when you see a performance like last night and you say, how the hell are they going to answer for Embiid? Because if Embiid wins the MVP, and then we got to remember, the MVP vote isn't announced instantly, okay? So the playoffs will begin. This is going to be a dude that's on a mission to prove, come playoff time, that he's worthy of that regular season award. Let's not forget that little nugget of information right there. I think all of that plays a role in it. It's a close race, doggy. Nobody's trying to say it's not. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that Embiid is going to be the first player since Larry Bird to be the runner-up for league MVP 3 consecutive years. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.